Thanks for joining us again on Where Life Exists. I'm excited to continue in our series within a series called 49. It's a part of our series at Blueprint Church on the 49 Commands of Christ. So we simply call it 49, a call to simple obedience.
Welcome to a podcast about disciple making in the public square, where we talk about everyday issues from a biblical and balanced perspective. This is where life exists.
This is Where Life Exists, where we talk about everyday issues from a biblical and balanced perspective. My name is Dahadi Lewis, and I am the lead pastor of Blueprint Church and the president of Sin Network. And today we are continuing in our series on the 49 Commands of Christ, a call to simple obedience. Today we're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 26, verses 41 and following. Jesus says it this way: stay awake and pray so that you won't enter into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Have you ever been in a church service and found yourself singing a song that you knew wasn't true about your life? I think we sing these songs all the time. We sing songs like, "All I Need Is You, Lord." When we know that all week we have craved and desired and sought after all types of other things, that we don't feel like Jesus is enough. We sing, you have my heart completely. When we know that there are other idols that are sitting on the thrones of our hearts. And yet, we desire for the words of these songs to be true. We are living in this already but not yet tension, and we're yearning for something, but recognizing that our flesh is weak. And this is what I believe that Jesus is trying to get to us, where he says that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. That's why when we sing these songs, I really believe that every Sunday morning when we sing, or when we're singing in our car, when we're singing in the shower, when we're worshiping God and singing these songs, that we are doing spiritual warfare. When we sing songs to God, we are asking God to fight for the reality that we long for, to make it true in us, to transform us, that these words that we sing can be really true, that we are trying to bring every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. But for that to happen, we must learn to rely on Christ, because I am sure that you already know that our flesh, that your flesh is weak. And not only is weak, it's almost impossible to accomplish the very things that God has called us to accomplish. I've used this analogy a few times, but I think it's apropos for really what we're talking about. It's a turkey analogy. Just imagine that you've been cooking a turkey, and as you were cooking this turkey, you forgot about the turkey, and you leave the house. And then when you come back into the house, then all of a sudden, like, you smell, oh my gosh, I left the turkey. But you've been gone for almost a half a day, and you see that this turkey has been burnt to a crisp. Like, you recognize that it's nothing that you can do. And so now you got this turkey and it's in the pot. And so you go and you grab a perfectly good fork, right? And you stick that fork in the turkey and you lift it up, and it goes for up a little bit, but then it falls back down. It goes, then you kind of hold the fork from another place and it raises up a little bit, but then it falls back down. It raises a little and it falls. The fork is not the problem. The fork can hold it up. And that's not the issue that we're talking about right there. But really what we're seeing is that there is this tension about the flesh is weak. The fork in this analogy is the spirit. The flesh in this analogy is the turkey. Perfectly good fork, but the problem is it needs to cooperate with a flesh that is weak. In Matthew chapter 26, this is exactly like what the disciples were struggling with. They had a desire to stay up and pray. But every time Jesus came out, they were unable to fulfill that desire. I really don't believe that they was like, I'm going to tell you, Jesus, that I want to stay up. But then as soon as they left, they went to sleep. No, I don't think that that's the issue. And I don't think that's the same issue with us, that when we're singing these songs, I really believe that we want these songs to be true. We do the same thing all the time. We have the same struggle. Our spirit is willing, but our flesh, it's weak. But see, this is the grace of God. And I want to say, but thanks be to God, because it is by grace through faith that we are able. So going back to my turkey analogy, what we need to do is that if we had a turkey with rotten, that's burnt flesh that couldn't do anything, we need to be able to lift that turkey, in a way, even though that the flesh is weak, we need to move from a fork to a spatula, right? And let's just imagine that a fork where we're sticking it in, it comes up, the flesh goes down. Now we come in with a spatula, we lift it up. It is no longer needing the flesh to cooperate with it, because it is no longer dependent upon the flesh. It is solely dependent on the ability of that spatula to lift up that turkey. You see, this is God's grace. God's grace is in the form of a spatula to come underneath the turkey, or to come underneath us. It no longer matters the strength of the flesh, because the weight is in the strength of the spatula. And so this is what we're talking about. This is why it is important for us to understand that, because God knows that we need him. He wants us to need him and to rely on him. He never wanted us to work on or to work it out on ourselves or to struggle alone. God knows that he gives us tasks that we cannot do without him. The work for us oftentimes is to let go of our forks and to stop trying to fight on our own strength and to learn how to rely on God's enabling power, God's grace. Thanks again for tuning in into Where Life Exists, where we talk about everyday issues from a biblical and balanced perspective. If you enjoyed today's video, then you will love the content on our website, betheblueprint.net. And as always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to the date on our latest videos.